made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 522 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Cathy Wendland. And if you want to hear a story about becoming a leader, then you have to decide and claim it.
Welcome
Stay tuned
back
for this episode.
This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's 522 today. That's the 522nd episode of Chiro Hustle podcast. 5.5 years in. I'm really excited to have Dr. Cathy on with us today. It has been some time. We had produced a documentary back in 2015 that she was a part of. It's called Chiropractic, the documentary. If you guys want to see the full film, go over to chirohustle.com and say, I want the movies. So I saw her talking about chiropractic and children, and it really inspired me to ask her to be a part of our movie because I saw how passionate she was about chiropractic and kids. So I'm really excited to have her on for a feature episode today. But before we get into this episode, I want everyone to know the big why. Why do we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle? First things first is the First Amendment. We've never censored anyone. So I think that that's really important in today's era. And the climate that we're in today is people are in cancel culture and silence culture, shadow banning, and things that they would never exist. But that's why we do this, because we do believe in medical freedom and family health freedom. And those are things that resonate with me on a personal level. So I want people to understand that we need to fight for those things, and we need to stay resilient when it comes to freedom of speech. And because of that, it got me thinking more and more about protecting chiropractic. And there's this thing in chiropractic called the sacred trust. If you don't know what that means, go search for BJ Palmer's last words. Go do a search on your favorite search engine right now. Pause this episode and go search for BJ Palmer's sacred trust, BJ Palmer's last words. I guarantee you're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever knew before, and why it's so powerful and why we should protect it. Next, we do support and protect the subluxation-based chiropractic. They're removing this stuff from chiropractic schools. It's blasphemy in my mind that they're removing this lexicon and this languaging and this articulation of chiropractic history and philosophy. And then next, we also believe that there is an innate intelligence in all of us. And when that man or woman, the physical, gets adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I told you we'd come out guns blazing, right?
I love it. I love it. You're getting my blood going. I'm like, this is what we need to talk about. This is the stuff that matters.
Yeah. And if I don't say that stuff at the beginning, if somebody never listens to the rest of what we say from this point forward, they at least know where we stand as a show.
Absolutely. Yep. Set your principles. I love it.
Yeah. So I want this to be an opportunity for you to reintroduce yourself, if you will, as the chiropractor and how you got to where you are today. But this is a good chance for people, your patients, practice members, whatever you call them. I know every chiropractor has a certain vibe that they say who they take care of, what they're called. But this is friends, family, colleagues, students that you're helping with down there at Life. They might know of Dr. Cathy, but who are you?
So I will tell you how I got into chiropractic, because it's a roundabout story, and it was definitely not my life plan. It was not part of my goal. I was an aerobics instructor, personal trainer, super high level fitness competitor, and I got hit by a tractor trailer on my way from my photographer's studio to the Hamptons for, getting ready for Memorial Day weekend. It was actually, May 18th of 1994. Wow, gee, I don't even know. 1991. Look, you'd think I remember this. 1991. I got hit by a tractor trailer. At the time, I thought I wanted to be a personal trainer. I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I thought I wanted to continue modeling. Those are the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to keep teaching aerobics, keep competing, and physical therapy sounded like a great opportunity to me. And then I got into a car accident. And after getting hit by this tractor trailer, everything in my world changed. Modeling stopped, teaching aerobics stopped, personal training stopped, fitness competing, all of that stuff stopped. And my world went from this high-level athletic person to someone who bent over because I dropped my towel getting out of the shower, and I got stuck there for 3 hours. Couldn't pick up my towel. And my sister, when she came home, had to help me. And that was the lowest of embarrassing moments in my life. But during this time period, I went to physical therapists, massage therapists, orthopedic surgeons, biofeedback, neurologists, pain specialists, chiropractor, like you name it, I went to everyone. And I realized very quickly, I did not want to be a physical therapist. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to help as many people as possible with the most important thing they have. And that to me is their health. So I knew that that was my life goal. It's been my life goal since I was 17 years old, teaching aerobics in Jackal Lane on Long Island. But I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know how to do it. And I got in my truck and I drove from New York down to Georgia, and I checked out 3 different schools. One of them about becoming a physical therapist, one about becoming a pediatric neurosurgeon, and I checked out Life College at the time. And walking on the campus of Life College, something in me, right? I got goosebumps right now. Just something in me just felt alive. When we went and saw the gym, I was like, I feel this. Even though the gym was this little old rusty thing in the treehouse, many of you know what the treehouse is. It was this rusty equipment on a blue rusty rug, but I felt it. And then we went down the dissection hall. And as soon as I saw the dissection room, I turned to a friend that just coincidentally was on the tour with me. We didn't know that we were each coming down here. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to this school, just like that. Within 10 days, I bought a house. I moved down here at 23 years old, didn't know anyone, didn't know where the school was. And I just literally threw all of my life's intentions into this is what I'm going to do and figure it out while you're here.
So during that time, did you get a chance to actually meet Sid and Nell?
I did. I have such fond memories of Dr. Sid and Dr. Nell. And I was in school at the time when Dr. Sid would hold assembly every Thursday at noon. And there were some people who would complain and they would say, oh, the parking is horrible. I don't want to go to assembly. You could barely get a spot. And I would say, this is BJ of our time. Like, we're getting to sit and listen to our generation's leader. And I will tell you, respectfully, we will never again in our profession have a leader like that. And the reason why is we have a lot of chiefs. We have a lot of different branches in chiropractic. But at the time, from Dee to BJ, we had Dr. Sid. And I was very proud to be part of the memorial service that we did for Dr. Sid on campus, but also there are 3 headstones on the campus of Life. And many people might not know it, but the headstones were actually built and installed while Dr. Sid was still alive. And the first one, obviously, is for Dee, and it says he dared to dream. Let me think if I get it right, because Dee discovered. So it might say he dared to discover, where BJ said he dared to develop, and Dr. Sid says he dared to defend. And if you've ever heard me speak on some of the large platforms that I get to speak on, I say, you know what? We had the discoverer, the developer, the defender, and now who are we? We are the distributors. We have social media. We have the opportunity to spread this idea, this paradigm, this profession to the masses if we don't screw it up.
Well, to me, it resonates with the cliche quote is that if we don't sing, then we'll let the music die inside of us. And I think that when we think about chiropractic, we have to tell the story. Yeah. And I go back a lot of times to this. And if anybody listens to my show, they'll know that there was this profound moment in my life where I went to the first ever Mile High Chiropractic weekend out in Denver. And I was a guy working in a chiropractic office. You remember me from this point. I was on fire. I was a chiropractic biophysics traction technician. And I went to my first ever chiropractic seminar. And there's a guy named Joe Borio that was up on stage. And he just kept on saying, tell the story, tell the story, tell the story. And I heard it like a tornado siren, like inside of my mind. Like, chiropractors just need to tell the story. They need to keep on telling people the truth about this amazing profession, that it doesn't cut it out, drug it out, burn it out. They just need to go tell people that it's good for kids from cradle to grave. It's good for the elderly. And like Eric Plasker, a friend of mine, will always tell me, chiropractic first, chiropractic second, chiropractic third, chiropractic and drugs fourth, chiropractic and surgery fifth, chiropractic and whatever intervention you're going to do, make sure chiropractic is a part of it. But don't choose one and not do chiropractic with it. So he was very clear to me when he like blasted me with that message. And I think that chiropractors need to get really clear and just continuously connect with the people. Like you said, social media, we have a vehicle for communication that if Sid had that, if BJ had that, if Dee Dee had that, if Reggie Gould had that, what would they have done?
Right. I think, we've talked about how there's not enough people accessing chiropractic care. We've talked about this for over a decade. If these vehicles were available 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, I don't think that would be the case, especially when you understand about the Wilkes lawsuit and the percentage of people that actually went to chiropractors prior to the Wilkes lawsuit. There was a large percentage of people who went to chiropractors before the AMA started attacking our profession. And then the number dropped significantly, and we've been working ever since to bring it back up. But I think in addition to telling the story, and here's where a lot of sayings in chiropractic get confusing. People talk about tell the story and people talk about the safety pin cycle. But if you don't actually teach our students what it means to tell the story, and you don't actually teach them what the safety pin cycle is, why it's important, and how to explain it to the public, it's just rhetoric. And that I remember sitting in an event one time where there were 50 students in the room. The doctors had already left, and it was the student evening. And there were a couple people up on the stage kind of yelling at the students and admonishing them to tell the story and to talk about it and to talk about the principle. And I was standing in the back of the room and I'm watching students look as if they're confused. And I finally stood up and I said, how many of you actually know what the principle is? How many of you actually know what the story is? How many of you know what the safety pin cycle is? So here we have people just rah-rah siskumba about saying, but never breaking it down for the students who are going out into the profession and not knowing what they profess. And so if you have students who can just repeat the words and regurgitate the one-liners, but they don't understand the principle and the foundation behind it, it makes it really hard for them to, one, educate their public, two, build a practice on principle, and three, stay successful in chiropractic. So if they fail, they blame the profession instead of blaming their lack of understanding. So I think it's super important that we educate our students, that we educate our young docs, and that we as people in the chiropractic profession, yourself as well, as people in the chiropractic profession, that we stay engaged with what really matters, that we don't just throw out a bunch of one-liners, but we understand the meaning behind those one-liners so that we can educate our people, so that we can attract our community, so that we can stay engaged with them and have the opportunity to retain them as patients, because we're delivering something of value to them, not something of value to us, something of value to them. Because after all, that's what it always comes down to. It's always about them. It's never about us. And one of the things I teach my speaking clients is you have to get out of that mindset of WIFM, what's in it for me? And you have to transition to tiny, their interest, not yours. From WIFM to tiny, it's a small change, but it's a matter of saying, this is what the people want and this is what they need. How do you transition them from that? You have to meet people where they are and bring them to an understanding of a greater level of health, of how the body functions, of what innate intelligence is, of why we don't use drugs and surgery in our practices, not because we're not allowed, but because we don't see a value in that because we see an importance in allowing the body to function at its greatest capacity, because our greatest gift that we give to humanity is connecting man the physical with man the spiritual. There is no other doctor, no other therapist, no drug, no treatment. Nothing else can do that but a chiropractic adjustment.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Yeah, one of the guys I also learned from early on in my career, because I watched every video that Don Harrison put together and Deed Harrison put together. I watched, all those developmental stages of understanding how the mechanics of the spine worked. And then I ran into this guy with a group called Everest, and his name was Barry Anderson. And he would always say in his messaging was, if we don't tell them the truth about chiropractic, someone else will close them for drugs or surgery.
Yeah.
And that's always resonated with me. And that's why I went out from doing the movie that we had you in to working in a clinic to then going and doing 600 spinal screenings in 2.5 years, because I was on fire to go tell people the truth about chiropractic so we could save people's lives. And then I understood that chiropractic did save people's lives, but it has to be more than just rhetoric. It has to be more than just, telling people one-liners. You have to go out there and earn your position to say the things that you believe. And that's what the difference maker is when somebody goes out and earns the ability to share the message and have so much conviction behind it that they will stop everything to go help someone. And that's why when you're talking before the interview about dynamic essentials, the give, love, serve, that's why that group is so powerful, because Sid started it.
Right. And Dr. Sid also started the GCC, which is Georgia Council on Chiropractic. And I'm very honored to still sit on the board. I've been sitting on the board for, 7 or 10 years. You mentioned two names, and they're the only two names of people that it's actually brought me to tears when they passed. And one was Don Harrison, and the other one was Dr. Sid. I first met Don Harrison as a student at CBP, at one of the seminars. And I mentioned I had been in a really bad car accident. I was a student. I want to say I was already 5 or 6 years away from my car accident. And I still had migraine headaches every day. I still had low back pain every day. That was so bad. It was nauseating to the point where I wouldn't go on a roller coaster because I was nauseous every day from the amount of pain I was in. And I had Don and Deed and, forgive me for forgetting his name right now, one of the other greats in our profession. The three of them were adjusting me.
Jason Yeager?
No. It'll come to me. But the three of them were adjusting me, and it was kind of like an example, and they were showing how off my posture was, and they were doing mirror image adjusting. And they set me up with another student, Tommy DeAndreas, and he was adjusting me for the next 2 weeks. And by about day 10, I wasn't nauseous. By 2 weeks in, I didn't have a headache. Now, mind you, I'd had this for 5 or 6 years since my car accident. Every minute of every day, nausea, low back pain, unbelievable, unbearable headaches where my head just felt like it was in a vice and it was exploding. That changed my life. And I was already in chiropractic school, and I was like, chiropractic works. It's just not working for me yet, right? It's just not working for me yet, but it's working because it's not about how I feel. And I always understood that concept. It wasn't just about how I feel. I knew that my body was healthy. I knew that my body was strong. I just didn't know why I couldn't get rid of these nagging symptoms. And with Don, and Deed, and why can't I think of his name? It'll come to me. This changed. And I have the utmost respect for CBP. I'm a CBP, I got my CBP certificate on the wall there from school. It's what we do in our office. And I'm a huge advocate for it because it changes lives. The chiropractic changes lives, but this was the one technique when I started school that I felt it was the only technique that took into consideration muscles, ligaments, and tendons. And as a person with a huge fitness background, that was important to me. I wanted to make sure that we were addressing all components. So I'm glad that you mentioned those two names. But look, our profession is filled with amazing people. And we have such a gift to share with the world. We have such a gift that if more people knew what we knew, they would do what we do. That saying's been said a million times, but it's true. If our communities understood what we do, they would want more of it. When they see our children grow up healthy and strong, unmedicated, non-vaccinated, completely, open and outgoing. And, most of our kids are not shy. Most of our kids are brilliant. Most of our kids are energetic and athletic and just excel because of the lifestyle they've been raised in. When our community sees that, they want more of that.
Amen. Yeah. And to go back in time, a lot of chiropractors will always, say, I didn't choose chiropractic. Chiropractic chose me. And I had no idea 14 years ago that I was going to be recruited to work in a chiropractic biophysics office. Yeah. I couldn't have made that story up, but it had such a profound impact on me because I was doing patient testimonials and I was going around the country interviewing patients that were under chiropractic biophysics care. And I was talking to them, what was their life like before they started this type of treatment protocol? Yeah. What was their life like during it, which was mostly challenging because it's not easy. And then what is their life like now? So I'd ask these 3 questions. And it was amazing the amount of crying that I would get on these patient testimonials that were telling me about their stories just like yours. Like I tried everything. Nothing worked. Mm-hmm. I'd have to sit in a dark room because my migraines were so bad. I couldn't pick my child up after the accident. I couldn't do these things. But because of principled chiropractic care that restored me and studied the dynamics and the curve of my spine, now my life is back to what I want it to be and better. Such a beautiful narrative, right?
It is. And that should be the normal story that we hear in all offices. I think sometimes chiropractors, we get so numb to the chiropractic miracles that happen every single day. And they're not the big jarring ones that we're all hoping to happen in our office, right? Like we all love when somebody gets pregnant. We all love when their body starts functioning better. We all love when somebody's able to have the energy to play with their kids again. But it's the little stories. It's the ear infection that cleared up before anybody even knew that it was there. Those are the chiropractic miracles that happen every single day. It's the woman who conceived before she even knew she had a problem conceiving a child, right? It's the kids who excel on the athletic field because of their chiropractic adjustments. It's the kids who've gotten their hearing back too in my care, right? These are the things that happen all the time. And if we stay open to the miracles and we don't get numb to them and we don't just treat it like, oh yeah, of course that was going to happen. Of course I expected that to happen, but to really celebrate it, because these changes for these people don't just change their life. It changes the lives of the people around them. It changes the dynamics of their family. It changes their relationships with their family members and their friends. When they experience these chiropractic miracles, they go out into the world as a better version of themselves. And that's one of our humongous gifts to humanity, that we can never diminish that. It's so important.
Yeah. So let's go to this. I know you do some work at Life.
I do.
You work with students.
I do. I actually teach one of their final classes before they graduate. It's one of the business classes. And we always start the class. I say to them, every question that you've ever had that you've complained that nobody's ever answered, this is your weekend. If I can't answer it, I'll connect you to someone who can. And I have some pretty awesome friends in the profession that will either Skype in or Zoom in or whatever, or come in physically, fly in to just do 15 minutes in my class. Right. Just to pour into these students, not asking for anything back from them, just to pour into these students to say, you know what, you are part of our future. As soon as you enter school, you're part of this profession, but you're part of our future. And the more we pour into the future leaders, the better this profession is going to be and the better direction it's going to head in, because the direction it can head in is up to the leaders. I mean, it's politics on a professional level. So this profession can go one of many ways. And we just want to make sure that it stays in the right direction, unsullied, pure, right? Guard it well. Guard it well.
So what do you see coming in from these students that they are looking for support or questions of, or those types of things? Like, are you finding they're looking for business advice, adjusting advice, what type of practice they want to open up? Should they be an associate? Like, what are you finding?
I'm shocked. I will say that respectfully to the students and to some of the leaders in the profession, that the overwhelming majority of students at this point are coming out of school looking for a job. That's their goal, which is, and I say it's shocking to me because in the 90s, we went to school with the expectation to open our own practice. That was why we went to school. We knew that that was the goal, right? You might work for someone for 6 months or so to just to get on your feet. But Dr. Sid always told us there will be a 5 to 7 year lean period. He would say it all the time. There will be a 5 to 7 year lean period. You will live at home. Your spouse will pay the bills while you're getting your practice up and running. But once you make it through that 5 to 7 years, your practice will be on autopilot. You'll have referrals coming in. You'll have your name established in the community. I've been teaching this class for the last 14 years since my son was born. And initially, there were students who came to school because they had chiropractic miracles. There were students who came to school because they were raised in a chiropractic household. I was one of those people that I did not choose chiropractic, right? I was clearly told first day of first quarter by Dr. BJ Harmon in the first class when he had everybody in the room, 550 people. And he said, if you were born in a chiropractic household, stand up, and half the room stands up. If you had a chiropractic miracle, stand up, and the other half of the room stands up. And I'm waiting for my turn. I'm like, okay, ask the question that I get to stand up. And he said, if you have no idea why you're here, stand up. And I jumped up thinking 200 other people are going to stand up, and I was the only one. And Dr. BJ Harmon, he says, I want everybody to look at that girl because she is going to be a great chiropractor because she didn't choose chiropractic. Chiropractic chose her. So I'm okay when people don't have a story when they come to school, but I'm concerned that they come to school because a guidance counselor told them they can make a lot of money. I'm concerned when they come out of school wanting a job, not a career, a job. If they want a career, that's a different story. But a lot of them are coming out just wanting to know where can they make the most amount of money, not how can I impact the most lives, where can I practice that I can, deal with this certain specialty of the population that's really meaningful to me as a student. I'm more concerned that they're coming out wanting a job. And I'm concerned because there's a lot of them coming out wanting a job, and there's offices that don't necessarily have the means or the understanding to foster that new doc and help create a future leader. So that's a concern to me. And that's a concern that I think we're seeing it start to kind of level itself out in the profession because we've had so many students come out and not get the right job and get burned out in those positions that things are starting to change. We see a lot more groups coming together to teach people how to have associates or to teach people how to open their own practices or to eventually transition into their own practice. And I think what our students need is not what they necessarily say that they want, right? They say that they want the job. I think the reason a lot of them want the job is they don't have confidence in their ability. They don't have conviction in the principles of chiropractic, and they don't have a full grasp on the business aspect. So I think in chiropractic, we talk about the head, the heart, and the hands. We talk about the science, the art, and the philosophy. If you don't have all three of that three-legged stool, it's going to fall over. If you don't have the science, your art and philosophy, they might fall. If you can't adjust, you can talk chiropractic all you want, but if you can't deliver a great adjustment, people aren't coming back in. So you have to have the business head, you have to have the heart, you have to have the hands for chiropractic. And I think what's missing for a lot of our students, respectfully, is that they don't have all three. So they view their only opportunity as to get a job. Don't get me wrong. There's some great students and there's some really, really engaged students who they're sitting in these classrooms over a weekend and they're like, you know what? I have what it takes to open my own practice. Or they start the weekend saying, I am bound and determined to open my own practice, or to open multiple offices, or to bring other students in with me and open a group practice. So our profession can go one of many ways. Let's just hope that we have the right people continuing to steer it.
Yeah. This has been a very fun interview. I think that we've opened up a lot of channels of communication. We talked about where our origins came from. We talked about some of our loves for this profession. We've talked about some of the challenges for this profession, but we also talked about a profound sense of hope for the future of this profession.
Yes.
And I think in summary, it's been a long time coming for you to be on the Chiro Hustle podcast. So I want to acknowledge you and thank you for sharing. I also want to acknowledge you and thank you for making time for us today and to be a part of this larger family that we've created. We're non-denominational. We've torn down every illusion that there's a division in this profession, and we've brought the profession together stronger. We are weaving together a tapestry of chiropractic stories, and now you're a part of that. So I just want to thank you once again for being episode 522 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I know I sent a bunch of questions over to you that we didn't cover almost any of them except for question 1, but is there anything that I didn't ask you today that you'd like to share with our audience before we say goodbye today?
If I can just encourage everyone that you are more than you've ever believed that you are. Whether someone told you you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not strong enough, smart enough, pretty enough, whatever it is. If anybody ever told you that you're not enough, if you have this internal thermostat that every time you try to move forward into success, something pulls you back, I want you to really investigate who told you these things and why. What was their motive? What was their fear? What was their failure that they thought they were trying to protect you from? And then investigate it and say, you know what? Does that really hold true for me? Am I really too small, too short, too thin, too fat, too big, too small, whatever it is? And then look at yourself and say, if someone else can do it, I can do it. If anyone can do this, I can do it. And I want you to be willing to take the risks, be willing to put yourself out there, be willing to take the arrows, because sometimes in leadership positions, we step up and we get shot with the arrows. Sometimes they're in our back. Sometimes they're coming at us from the front. But be willing to take those leadership positions in your family, in your practice, in your community, or even in the profession, because we have such a gift to share with the world, and it does no one any justice for you to shrink back. What we really need to do is own our greatness, own our experiences, own our life story, and then be willing to get out there and put it out there to empower other people. Not because I need to tell my life story. Nobody cares about that except maybe my mom and my dad, right? And maybe someone who doesn't like me cares about my life story so they can tear it down. But if it inspires someone to realize that there's more within themselves, then I'll tell it. If it inspires someone to go out and try something bigger, bolder, more daring, then your life story will matter as long as you make it matter to them. But when you start to own who you are in this world and you become authentically yourself, you can lead in your own way for your own causes. And then we'll start to really change the world in a positive aspect. So if there's anything I can ever do to help anyone that's listening to this, it is always my pleasure to help somebody just to become more, to see more for your life, to be more, to do more, to have more, and to just enjoy your life experiences. And anytime you get the opportunity to reach back and help somebody, please don't bring them up to your level. That's not enough. Grab that person, slingshot them further than you thought you could ever go, so that when they get there, they can look back and say, wow, you need to come up here. And just always be helping each other be better and get higher in life and achieve greater levels of success. That's part of what we're here to do.
Decide to claim it. Become the leader.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the final comments and the final message there. And I do think that we all have an innate intelligence that's inside of us. that's waiting to be acknowledged. It's waiting to be released, and it's up to us. So that's why we do this show, is to bring awareness to people that we're more alike than we are different, and that chiropractic is so valuable and important to the advancement and development of mankind and womankind. As we move into the next 20 years, chiropractic is something that's going to continuously become more essential, and people are going to find out the big idea more and more, and they're going to start looking for chiropractic. And the people that stood on the sidelines saying those people are this or that or that, they're the first ones that are going to say, you know what, we need a change. We need a paradigm shift. And those are the people that have been doing it for the past 127 years. And I'm going to join them now. So we'll just keep fighting the good fight, one spine at a time, and keep telling the story. And with that, Dr. Cathy, have a great rest of your day down there in the Atlanta area. And
thank you, James.
And I look forward to the next opportunity to connect.
Sounds like a plan. Take care, everybody. All
right. So you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. That's the end of the show today, episode 522. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.